I am Sharon, 29 years old, and just before that Christmas, my knack for crunching numbers as a financial analyst would become my greatest burden. The six-figure salary I'd clawed my way to, sacrificing late nights and weekends, became the center of a family betrayal at our annual holiday gathering when my parents demanded I bankroll my sister Jessica's latest whim, a $52,000 car she didn't need. My refusal earned me a cold exclusion from the family's Christmas plans, their silence louder than any argument. "You're too selfish to be one of us," my mother hissed, her eyes narrow as my father nodded, while Jessica smirked across the table. The rest of the family, cousins, aunts, uncles, shifted uncomfortably, avoiding my gaze. I didn't cry or beg, instead, their dismissal lit a fire in me. My resolve to protect myself would unravel their toxic grip and redefine what family means. That night, as I sat alone in my apartment, the weight of their betrayal sank in, but so did a quiet strength. I wasn't just their ATM. I was done letting them drain me. Growing up, I was the odd one out, the kid who'd rather balance a budget than chase popularity. My parents, Vernon and Glenda, saw my spreadsheets as a quirk, not a talent. Jessica, 2 years younger, was their golden child, charming, reckless, always needing a bailout. They'd praise her half-baked art projects while my promotions went unnoticed. By 25, I'd built a career advising Fortune 500 clients, but at home, I was just the responsible one they leaned on. Rent money for Jessica's apartment? Sharon's got it. Dad's gambling debts? Sharon's checkbook. I thought love meant saying yes, but each withdrawal chipped away at me. Last Christmas, when I saw the group chat planning the family dinner, without me, I felt a pang, but not surprise. Then a bank alert pinged, a $52,000 car loan, co-signed in my name, my signature forged. My stomach dropped. They hadn't just excluded me, they'd stolen from me. I gripped my phone, knuckles whitening, as I realized this wasn't a mistake. It was a choice. Their choice. I wasn't invited because they knew I'd ask questions. Sitting on my couch, I stared at the loan documents, my heart racing. I could let it slide, keep the peace, but something snapped. I dialed a lawyer, my voice steady. This wasn't just about money. It was about my worth. Drop a comment telling me where you're watching from, hit subscribe, and stay with me for the most satisfying stand you'll ever hear. You wouldn't believe what I'll do once that betrayal sinks in. The lawyer's number saved. I sat back, my apartment quiet except for the hum of the fridge. My mind drifted to the years I'd spent invisible in my own family. At 16 I'd won a national math competition, a plaque and a $5,000 scholarship in hand. I rushed home, beaming, only to find Vernon and Glenda fawning over Jessica's new cheerleading uniform. "Look at her, our little star," Glenda cooed, adjusting Jessica's ponytail. My plaque sat unnoticed on the counter for weeks, eventually buried under junk mail. I remember clenching my fists, swallowing the hurt, and retreating to my room to study. That night, I vowed to make something of myself, even if they never saw it. At 21, fresh out of college with a finance degree, I landed an internship at a top firm. I called home hoping for a shred of pride. "That's nice, Sharon," Vernon said, distracted. "But Jessica's got a gallery showing. Her paintings are really something." Her paintings were splatters of color, sold to pitying neighbors, but they threw a party for her. I wasn't invited. I stood in my tiny dorm, phone pressed to my ear, feeling like a ghost. My promotions, analyst at 24, senior analyst at 27, barely got a nod. Meanwhile, Jessica's failed Etsy shop got a family fundraiser. I'd wire money, my jaw tight, telling myself it was easier than fighting. One memory stings most. Thanksgiving 3 years ago. I just closed $1 million deal, my biggest yet. At dinner, I tried sharing the news. "Can we talk about something interesting?" Jessica cut in, flipping her hair. "I'm thinking of starting a yoga blog." The table erupted in support. Vernon offering to buy her a camera, Glenda gushing about her creativity. I stared at my plate, fork still, my throat tight. Nobody asked about my deal. Later, washing dishes alone, I overheard Glenda whisper to an aunt, "Sharon's just so practical. Not like Jessica." The word practical landed like a slap. I dried my hands, fingers trembling, and promised myself I'd stop chasing their approval. Back in my apartment, those memories churned. Each slight, each dismissal had built a wall between me and them. I wasn't their daughter. I was their safety net. The forged loan wasn't a shock, it was the final straw. I glanced at my laptop. opened to my bank account, and felt a surge of clarity. I'd worked too hard to let them bleed me dry. My fingers hovered over the lawyer's contact. Calling her wasn't just about the money. It was about claiming the space they'd never given me. I pressed dial, my pulse steady, knowing this call would change everything. Their spotlight on Jessica had left me in the dark, but I was ready to step into my own light. The lawyer's voicemail beeped, and I hung up, my resolve still burning. My apartment felt smaller, the walls closing in with memories of how I'd built my life in secret. At 23, while my family fawned over Jessica's latest passion project, I was grinding through 80-hour weeks at the firm. I'd stay late, my desk lamp the only light in the office, poring over market trends. One night, exhausted, I stumbled on a gap in our client's portfolio: renewable energy stocks, undervalued but poised to soar. My gut screamed opportunity. I pitched it to my boss, palms sweaty, expecting dismissal. "Run with it," he said, eyebrows raised. I spent months researching, my eyes gritty from screen glare, building a model that predicted a 20% return. When I presented it, the client signed a $10 million deal. My boss slapped my back, calling me a hidden gem. I glowed, but I didn't tell my family. They'd never cared before. That win was my aha moment. I started moonlighting, building my own investment portfolio. I'd work until 2 a.m., my coffee cold, analyzing stocks in my cramped apartment. I took risks, small at first, then bolder, betting on tech startups and green energy. Each gain felt like a secret victory, a middle finger to Vernon and Glenda's indifference. By 27, I'd turned $5,000 in savings into $200,000. I remember checking my account one night, my heart pounding as the numbers stared back. I wanted to scream, to call someone, but who? Jessica was blowing through another loan from me, and my parents never asked about my work. I sat alone, grinning, my fingers tracing the screen. That money was mine, earned in the shadows they'd pushed me into. The struggle wasn't just time, it was doubt. Every loss in the market felt like proof I was a fraud. One bad trade cost me $8,000. I paced my apartment, cursing myself, imagining Vernon's voice, "Stick to your day job." But I kept going, learning, refining. By 29, my portfolio hit $500,000, enough to buy freedom. Freedom I hadn't yet claimed. I never flaunted it. My car was a used Honda, my apartment modest. My family assumed I was scraping by, which made their demands sting more. They didn't see the nights I'd spent building something unbreakable, something they couldn't touch. Now, staring at the forged loan documents, that secret strength surged. They'd tried to steal what I'd built, but I wasn't helpless. My success wasn't just money. It was proof I didn't need their validation. I grabbed my laptop, my fingers steady, and emailed the lawyer the loan papers. This wasn't just about $52,000. It was about protecting the life I'd carved out, one they'd never bothered to see. The email to the lawyer sent, I leaned back, my laptop warm on my thighs. It was December 23rd, the eve of the family Christmas I wasn't invited to, and the weight of my discovery, the forged $52,000 car loan, sat heavy in my chest. I'd been scrolling through bank alerts, my coffee going cold, when the loan notification popped up. My name, my credit, tied to Jessica's shiny new SUV. I opened the scanned document, my eyes locking on my signature, looped, confident, but not mine. Vernon's scrawl was unmistakable in the cosigner section. I gripped my mug, knuckles white, as the truth hit. They'd planned this, knowing I'd be excluded from the family gathering. My exclusion wasn't just cruelty, it was cover. I paced my apartment, the hardwood creaking under my socks. Christmas lights blinked outside, mocking the storm inside me. I'd always dreaded these family events, Vernon's lectures, Glenda's passive-aggressive jabs, Jessica's smug grin, but I went, hoping for a scrap of connection. This year, the group chat had buzzed with plans: Glenda's famous ham, Uncle Lyle's bad karaoke, cousins debating eggnog. My name never appeared. I'd texted Glenda, casual, asking if I should bring dessert. "Oh, we're keeping it small," she replied, no invitation. I'd stared at my phone, my throat tight, telling myself it was fine. But the loan? That was a knife in the back. I stopped pacing, my reflection caught in the window. My eyes were tired but sharp. I wasn't the kid who'd begged for their approval. I'd built a $500,000 portfolio in secret, advised CEOs, and survived their neglect. Yet here I was, betrayed again. I sat, pulling up the group chat, my fingers hovering. Part of me wanted to confront them, text, call, scream, but they'd gaslight me, like always. "You're overreacting, Sharon," Glenda would say, her voice syrupy. Jessica would laugh it off, Vernon would shrug. No. I needed proof, a plan. I opened my lawyer's email, attaching bank statements in the forged document. My heart raced, not with fear but with clarity. Tomorrow, I'd go to that Christmas dinner, uninvited. I'd walk into their smug celebration and demand answers. I imagined their faces, Glenda's fake shock, Vernon's stammer, Jessica's pout. The thought made my pulse quicken, a mix of dread and thrill. I didn't want their love anymore. I wanted justice. I set my laptop aside, my hands steady, and pulled out a notepad. I jotted questions. When did they sign? Who notarized it? Each word felt like armor. Tomorrow I'd face them, not as their daughter, but as the woman they'd underestimated. The Christmas lights outside flickered, and for the first time, I felt ready to ruin their holiday. I pulled up to my parents' house, the Christmas lights twinkling against the snow-dusted lawn, my breath visible in the cold. The driveway was packed. Uncle Lyle's rusted pickup, Aunt Doreen's minivan, Jessica's gleaming new SUV, bought with my forged signature. My hands gripped the steering wheel, my Honda's engine ticking as it cooled. I'd rehearsed my questions all morning, but my stomach churned. I wasn't invited. Yet here I was, crashing their small gathering. I stepped out, my boots crunching, and adjusted my scarf, my face a mask of calm I didn't feel. The front door loomed, laughter spilling from inside. I knocked, my knuckles firm, and waited. Glenda opened the door, her smile freezing. "Sharon, what? We didn't expect you?" Her eyes flicked to the crowded living room where cousins and aunts milled with wine glasses. I forced a smile, my voice steady. "Thought I'd drop by. Merry Christmas." She hesitated, then stepped aside, her apron wrinkled from cooking. As I entered, the room quieted, heads turning. Jessica, sprawled on the couch, looked up from her phone, her smirk faltering. Vernon, pouring bourbon, grunted, "Didn't know you were coming." I nodded, my jaw tight, and set my coat on a chair, my movements deliberate. The air was thick with forced cheer. Aunt Doreen hugged me, her perfume cloying, and whispered, "You look tired, dear." Cousin Barry asked about my job, but his eyes glazed over before I answered. Jessica piped up, "Sharon's probably too busy counting money to celebrate." Laughter rippled, sharp and hollow. I clenched my fists, nails biting my palms, and forced a laugh, something like that. I scanned the room, their faces a gallery of condescension. Glenda offered me a plate, her voice sugary. "You must be starving, working all the time." The dig landed, but I took the plate, my fingers steady, and sat at the table's edge. Dinner began, and the barrage intensified. Uncle Lyle grilled me about my fancy clients, his tone mocking. "Bet you don't have time for fun, huh?" I shrugged, my fork pausing midair, and said, "I manage." Jessica leaned in, her earrings glinting. "You should try living a little, Sharon. Get a life outside spreadsheets." More chuckles. My chest tightened, but I kept my eyes on my plate, cutting my ham with precision. Each jab was a test, and I refused to crack. The loan hung in my mind, a secret weapon I wasn't ready to reveal. I glanced at Vernon, his face flushed from bourbon, and Glenda, fussing over Jessica's plate. They thought they'd won, excluding me, forging my name. But I was here, watching, waiting. This wasn't their night, it was mine. The clatter of plates faded as Glenda passed the mashed potatoes, her smile tight. I sat at the table's edge, my pulse steady despite the sting of their jabs. The Christmas lights cast a warm glow, but the air felt brittle. Jessica was mid-story, waving her fork, describing her new SUV's heated seats. "It's like driving a cloud," she gushed, her eyes flicking to me, daring a reaction. I kept my face neutral, my hands folded, but my mind raced. The loan, $52,000, my name forged, was a ticking bomb. I'd planned to wait to gather more evidence, but her smugness lit a fuse. I cleared my throat, my voice cutting through the chatter. "Nice car, Jessica. How'd you swing the financing?" The room stilled. Jessica froze, her fork halfway to her mouth. Vernon coughed, reaching for his bourbon, while Glenda's eyes darted to him. "What's that supposed to mean?" Jessica snapped, her tone sharp. I leaned forward, my gaze locked on hers. "Just curious, cars like that aren't cheap? Did Mom and Dad help?" I turned to Vernon, my eyebrow raised. He shifted, his glass clinking against the table. We sorted it out," he mumbled, avoiding my eyes. Glenda jumped in, her voice high. "Sharon, let's not talk business at Christmas." I didn't back down. "It's not business. It's my name on the loan." Gasps rippled. Aunt Doreen clutched her necklace. Uncle Lyle's jaw dropped. Jessica's face reddened. "What are you talking about?" she spat. I pulled my phone from my pocket, the loan document already open, and slid it across the table. "This, my signature forged. Care to explain?" Vernon's hand shook, spilling bourbon. Glenda's mouth opened, then closed. Jessica shoved the phone back. "You're delusional. I didn't need your help." I stood, my chair scraping, and faced them. "You used my credit, my future, for her." I pointed at Jessica, my voice steady but cold. "You didn't even invite me here, but you had no problem stealing from me." Glenda's eyes welled, performative. "Sharon, we'd never." I cut her off. "Save it. I'm done." I grabbed my phone, my heart pounding, and looked at each of them. Vernon's guilt, Glenda's crocodile tears, Jessica's defiance. The rest of the family stared, silent, complicit. I'd spent years swallowing their poison, but this was the end. "I'm taking this to court," I said, my words final. "You're not my family anymore." I turned, my boots loud on the hardwood, and walked out, the door slamming behind me. The cold air hit my face, but I felt lighter. They'd betrayed me, but I'd just reclaimed my power. I drove away from my parents' house, the Christmas lights blurring in my rearview mirror, my hands tight on the wheel. The night was sharp, the air biting through my cracked window, but my mind was clearer than it had been in years. I'd dropped the bomb, called out the forged loan, severed ties, and their stunned faces burned in my memory. Vernon's spilled bourbon, Glenda's fake tears, Jessica's glare. I'd walked out, but the fight was just beginning. My phone buzzed in the passenger seat, breaking the silence. I glanced at the screen. "Mora, attorney? My lawyer." I pulled into a gas station lot, the neon sign buzzing, and answered, my breath visible in the cold. "Sharon? I got your email," Mora said, her voice crisp but warm. "The loan documents are damning. Forgery's clear." I exhaled, my shoulders loosening. "Can we fight this?" I asked, my fingers tapping the dashboard. She didn't hesitate. "Absolutely. We've got a strong case for fraud and identity theft. Your parents and sister could face criminal charges, and we'll get the loan off your name." My heart raced. Not with fear, but with power. I pictured Vernon stammering in court, Jessica's smirk gone. "What's next?" I asked, my voice steady. Mora outlined the plan. "File a police report, freeze my credit, and sue for damages." "This won't be quick," she warned, "but you're in the driver's seat." I leaned back, the seat creaking, and stared at the gas station's flickering sign. Mora's words sank in. I wasn't just a victim. I had control. Years of bailing out Jessica, of swallowing Glenda's jabs, had conditioned me to feel small. But this call changed everything. I wasn't just fighting for $52,000, I was fighting for my life, my portfolio, my career, my peace. I thanked Mora, my tone firm, and hung up, my hands no longer shaking. I opened my phone, pulling up the loan document again, my eyes tracing the forged signature. It wasn't just ink, it was their betrayal, laid bare. I started the car, the engine rumbling, and felt a shift. The family dinner had been their stage, but the courtroom would be mine. I imagined facing them, my evidence airtight, their excuses crumbling. Mora's call had lit a fire, not of anger, but of purpose. I wasn't their scapegoat anymore. I pulled out of the lot, the road stretching dark and open. The lawyer's words echoed, "You're in the driver's seat." For the first time I believed it. I'd built a $500,000 empire in secret. I could build a future free of them. The fight was on, and I was ready to win. The gas station's glow faded as I drove home, Mora's words, "You're in the driver's seat," fueling my resolve. My phone stayed silent, no texts from Vernon, Glenda, or Jessica. They were probably still reeling from my exit, plotting their next move. I pulled into my apartment lot, the engine ticking as it cooled, and sat for a moment, my hands resting on the wheel. The Christmas confrontation had cracked something open. I wasn't just done with their betrayal, I was done with their lies. I grabbed my phone and keys, my boots crunching on the icy pavement, and headed inside, my mind racing with what I'd say if they dared reach out. An hour later, my phone lit up. "Glenda." I stared at the screen, my thumb hovering, then answered, my voice flat. "What?" Her tone was syrupy, practiced. "Sharon, honey, you stormed out so fast, we're worried." I snorted, pacing my living room, the hardwood creaking. "Worried? You forged my signature for Jessica's car," she gasped, theatrical. "That's a misunderstanding. We thought you'd be okay with it." My grip tightened, nails digging into my palm. "You excluded me from Christmas to hide it, don't lie." Vernon's voice cut in, gruff. You're blowing this out of proportion. Family helps family. I laughed, bitter. Family doesn't steal. Jessica grabbed the phone, her voice sharp. You're just jealous I got the car. Get over yourself. That was it. I stopped pacing, my pulse steady, and let the words come. You're a leech, Jessica. You all are. I've paid your bills, covered your messes, and you repay me with fraud. I'm suing you, all of you. Silence. Then Glenda's sob, fake as ever. How could you do this to us? I didn't flinch. You did this. I'm done being your bank. I hung up, my hand steady, and tossed the phone on the couch. I sank into a chair, the room quiet except for the hum of the radiator. Their hypocrisy, calling me selfish while stealing my future, was laid bare. I pictured their faces at dinner, smug until I'd exposed them. Now they'd scramble, but I was steps ahead. Mora's plan was in motion. Police report, lawsuit, credit freeze. I wasn't just walking away, I was dismantling their hold on me. My eyes fell on a photo on my shelf. Me at my college graduation, alone, no family in the crowd. I'd built my life despite them. This was no different. I stood, my shoulders squared, and grabbed my laptop to email Mora, confirming the next steps. The fight wasn't over, but I'd already won something bigger. My voice. They'd underestimated me for the last time. My laptop shut with a soft click. Mora's reply. We're moving forward, still glowing in my mind. The apartment felt lighter, the weight of that Christmas confrontation lifting. I glanced at the clock, 7 p.m., a week since the dinner. My phone had been silent. No more calls from Glenda's crocodile tears or Jessica's venom. I'd won a small victory, but the real fight was ahead. For now, I needed air, connection, something real. I texted my friend Patrice, my fingers quick. Up for dinner? Her reply pinged instantly. Hell yes. Meet at Rusty's in 30. I smiled, grabbed my coat, and headed out, the winter air sharp against my cheeks. Rusty's diner was warm, its neon sign buzzing, the smell of fries and coffee wrapping around me as I stepped inside. Patrice waved from a corner booth, her braids swinging, her grin wide. Beside her sat Calvin, our mutual friend, his flannel shirt rolled up, sketching on a napkin. There's our warrior, Patrice teased, sliding a menu my way. I laughed, sliding into the booth, my shoulders relaxing for the first time in days. Warrior, huh? I said, my voice light. Calvin looked up, his pencil pausing. Heard you took on your whole family. Badass. I shrugged, but their warmth sank in, a stark contrast to the coldness of Vernon's bourbon-soaked grunts, or Glenda's fake concern. We ordered burgers for me and Patrice, a milkshake for Calvin, and the conversation flowed. Patrice leaned in, her eyes bright. So spill, what happened at that dinner? I recounted it all, the forged loan, Jessica's smirk, my exit. My hands gestured, animated as I described slamming the door. Calvin whistled. You didn't just burn the bridge. You dynamited it. Patrice squeezed my arm, her voice soft. You deserved better, Sharon. You've got us now. I nodded, my throat tight, flat, and took a sip of water, the glass cool against my palm. The diner's jukebox kicked on, some old Motown tune, and we laughed as Calvin sang off-key. This was family. Not the toxic charade at my parents' house, but this. Shared fries, easy jokes, no strings. Patrice and Calvin didn't ask for loans or guilt trips. They saw me, not my bank account. As we split the bill, my fingers brushing the worn vinyl booth, I felt grounded. The lawsuit loomed, but here, I was free. I hugged them both outside, the night crisp, their laughter echoing as we parted. Walking to my car, my boots crunching on salt-strewn pavement, I realized I'd already started building something new. My biological family had tried to break me, but these chosen allies were my strength. The road ahead was mine to pave. The diner's warmth lingered as I drove home, Patrice and Calvin's laughter still ringing in my ears. My apartment was quiet, the glow of a single lamp casting shadows on the walls. I kicked off my boots, my phone buzzing on the counter. A text from Glenda. Sharon, we need to talk. This lawsuit is tearing us apart. My jaw tightened. No apology, just more guilt. I tossed the phone aside, my fingers drumming on the countertop. They hadn't stopped. Calls, texts, even an email from Vernon claiming I was breaking your mother's heart. I'd ignored them, but the manipulation gnawed at me. I needed to shut it down hard. I grabbed my laptop, the screen's glow harsh in the dim room, and drafted an email. My fingers flew, each word deliberate. Stop contacting me. Your actions, forging my signature, excluding me, ended this. My lawyer will handle everything. I read it twice, my pulse steady, and hit send. The whoosh of the email felt final, like locking a door. I leaned back, my chair creaking, and exhaled. But I knew they'd try again. Jessica's tantrums, Glenda's tears, Vernon's gruff demands. I had to set boundaries, not just for them, but for me. I pulled out a notepad, my pen scratching as I jotted rules. No calls, no visits, no family emergencies unless verified. I'd block their numbers, redirect their emails to Mora. My credit was frozen, my accounts were secure. I wrote, "Protect my peace," underlining it twice, the ink smudging under my thumb. This wasn't just about the lawsuit, it was about reclaiming my life. I thought of Patrice's arm squeeze, Calvin's napkin sketches. They'd shown me what support looked like. My family's chaos didn't get to invade that. My phone buzzed again, Jessica this time, a voice message. I hesitated, my finger hovering, then played it. "You're so selfish, Sharon," she spat. "Suing us? You'll regret this." I deleted it, my hand steady, and blocked her number. The silence that followed was heavy but freeing. I stood, pacing, my socks soft on the hardwood. Each step felt like shedding their weight. I stopped at the window, the city lights flickering below. I'd spent years bending to their demands, but no more. Mora's case was moving forward. Police report filed, court date set. They'd face consequences, but I wasn't waiting for justice to live. I taped my boundary list to the fridge, the paper crinkling, a reminder every time I'd grab a coffee. This was my fortress, built on my terms. Glenda's texts, Jessica's voicemails, they'd bounce off these walls. I wasn't their scapegoat anymore. I was Sharon, and I was enough. The fridge hummed. My boundary list taped to its door, the ink bold against the white. It was mid-January, weeks since the diner night with Patrice and Calvin, and the lawsuit was gaining traction. Mora had filed the fraud charges, and my family's silence felt like a temporary retreat. I sat at my kitchen table, my laptop open, the morning light slanting through the blinds. My portfolio had hit $550,000, a quiet triumph, but I wasn't just chasing numbers anymore. I wanted to build something bigger, something mine. I'd been mulling an idea. A financial literacy program for young women, teaching them what I'd learned the hard way, how to protect their money, their future. My family's betrayal had sparked it, and I was ready to turn their poison into purpose. I opened a new document, my fingers hovering, then typed, "Empower Finance Initiative." The name felt right, solid. I sketched a plan, free workshops, online resources, mentors for girls like me, who'd grown up with no one in their corner. I thought of 16-year-old Sharon, ignored for Jessica's cheerleading, and my throat tightened. This was for her. I spent hours researching, my coffee cold, jotting down grant applications and community partners. My pen scratched, the sound grounding me. I emailed a local nonprofit, my pitch crisp. "Let's teach women to own their worth." Their reply came fast. Interested, wanting a meeting. I grinned, my fist tapping the table. I stood, stretching, my reflection caught in the window. My family's name, Vernon, Glenda, Jessica, had been a shadow, defining me as their ATM, their scapegoat. Now I was redefining it. Sharon wasn't their daughter. Sharon was the woman building a legacy. I thought of Glenda's fake tears, Vernon's gruff excuses, and felt nothing. They'd tried to steal my future, but I was creating one they couldn't touch. I grabbed my phone, texting Patrice and Calvin, "Starting a financial empowerment program, you in?" Their replies lit up, Patrice's "hell yeah" and Calvin's "count me in." And I laughed, my chest light. By afternoon I was on a call with the nonprofit, my voice steady as I outlined my vision. They loved it, offering space and funding leads. I hung up, my hands trembling with excitement, and looked at the boundary list on the fridge. This initiative wasn't just a project, it was my way of reclaiming my name, my story. My family had tried to erase me, but I was writing a new chapter, one that would outlast their betrayal. I sat back down, my laptop glowing, and kept working, the clicks of my keyboard a rhythm of freedom. This was my legacy, and it was only the beginning. The nonprofit meeting was set for next week, my Empower Finance initiative taking shape, and I felt a quiet hum of purpose. It was late January, the city dusted with snow, and I sat in my apartment, a mug of tea steaming on the table. The lawsuit against Vernon, Glenda, and Jessica was moving forward. Mora had secured a court date in March, but I wasn't consumed by it anymore. I'd spent years chasing their approval, bending to their demands, but now, staring at the boundary list on my fridge, I saw the truth. My worth wasn't tied to them, it never had been. I leaned back, my chair creaking, and let that sink in, the realization, soft but seismic. I thought of the Christmas dinner, their smug faces when I walked in, uninvited. The forged loan, their betrayal had been a gut punch, but it had also been a gift. It forced me to see them for what they were, users, not family. I didn't hate them, I just didn't need them. My fingers traced the mug's handle, the ceramic warm, Patrice's laugh, Calvin's napkin sketches, the nonprofit's enthusiasm. Those were my anchors now. I'd built a $500,000 portfolio, a career advising CEOs, and soon, a program to lift others up. That was my validation, not Glenda's tears or Vernon's grudging nods. I stood, walking to the window, the city lights smudging through the frost. I remembered 16-year-old Sharon, clutching her math competition plaque, ignored. She'd been enough then, and I was enough now. The lawsuit would resolve. The loan would be erased, but this peace, this certainty, was my real victory. I didn't need to prove anything to them. I was free to live, to create, to choose who sat at my table. My reflection stared back, eyes steady, and I smiled, small but real. I grabbed my phone, texting Patrice and Calvin, "Thanks for being my real family." Their replies, heart emojis, always, lit up the screen. I set the phone down, my hands still, and looked around my apartment. It wasn't just a space. It was mine, filled with my choices, my strength. The fight with my family had broken me open, but it had also let light in. I was at peace, not because they'd lost, but because I'd won myself. Have you ever had to redefine family to choose who truly supports you? I'm Sharon, and my journey taught me that family isn't blood. It's mutual respect, love that doesn't demand a price. I walked away from betrayal, from a forged loan and years of being used, and found peace in my own worth. I'm building something now, a program to empower others, and I want you to be part of it. Share your stories in the comments. Have you ever had to cut ties to find yourself? If my journey resonated, please like, subscribe, and share it with someone who needs to hear. It's okay to define success on their own terms. You're not alone, and your worth is yours to claim. Let's keep choosing ourselves, together.